Yes, well, we're going to talk the lingering fuel scarcity, which we just have to talk about after all. Thursday, I think the Friday is 1st of December. Christmas is coming, and people are going to start leaving their places of work, start traveling home to spend the holiday season with family and friends.
Not to talk about the funds places that they will also have to power their equipment, and people have to pay a lot more for those services than they normally do.
Please don't remind us, Ayo. No, over the last 1 week, fuel scarcity was reported in Lagos, in Kaduna, and other cities around the country. Well, that's not to say it has just started. We mentioned this in passing last week, that there was, even though it was not so obvious in Lagos as of last week, but things suddenly took a turn for the worse during the week. And today, coming into the studio, some queues were over a mile long. So what is the reason for this? Has NNPC said anything? Have you heard anything from NNPC?
Well, maybe after the program or during this program.
Anyway, we have somebody who might be able to give us an insight into this. We have Mr. Peter Isele, former president, Trade Union Congress, and former president, Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria. Good morning, Mr. Isele.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, let me be the first to shoot this at you as we begin this conversation right now. It's first of all, I'm sure you are concerned. And being in the industry, I don't know how you're taking this. We haven't had fuel scarcity towards the end of the year in a while. And it will seem like now this is happening. This is the first time we're having an end of year after the Petroleum Industry Act was signed into law. Is there any correlation?
I don't think there's any correlation with that. But the fact is, we keep going back. You know, insanity is defined as when you keep doing the same thing and you are expecting a different result.
Mr. Isele, we do apologize. We must take a break. Sorry, Mr. Isele. We'll come back to you in just a moment, please. Thank you very much. We must take a break.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We just need to resolve a thing or two. So back to you, Mr. Isele. You were trying to, answer that question around, is there a correlation between the fact that the PIA was signed this year and the fuel scarcity we started having at the end of the year? We haven't had an end-of-year fuel scarcity in a very long time.
Yes, there are no correlation. I think what I was saying earlier is that insanity is defined as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we've been having sporadic fuel scarcity. I think it just got to Lagos. Abuja had it over and over again. I think Abuja is still in it. Other parts of the country. So what the problem we're having now is once you have scarcity as we have it right now, it's not as if there's no product. You just know that there's a disagreement going on between NNPC and the marketers on what they should pay. You are having a cost overrun, so they can sell at 170 or 175. So that itself is what is playing out now.
Okay, so that's on the one hand. How long this will last is another thing altogether, because, well, you very well know a number of things that many of us don't know, about what is happening in the country, especially concerning fuel supply as we speak now. When it started in Abuja, I was a little iffy, and I was hoping it wouldn't come to Lagos. Well, here we are. As Alero mentioned earlier, some fuel queues are a mile long, some longer. So how long, in your opinion, should this last? Who should be talking? Because we aren't hearing anything from anyone at the authority level, whether the downstream regulatory authority, the NNPC, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. No one is talking to Nigerians.
Well, of course, when there are queues in Lagos, Lagos is the economic hub of the country. Suddenly, everybody is alive to something is going wrong. It has been happening in every other parts of the country. So what you have now is, I can't tell you how long it's going to last. They are not talking. The reason why they are not talking is we have to define subsidy. Can they continue with the subsidy? That is an issue. How many percent of the subsidy? That's another issue they had to confront. And how much are we going to agree for the marketers to sell the product at the pump price? And then if without subsidies, about 450 naira that a liter of petrol should go for. So you see, government right now is between the rock and the hard place, thinking of, okay, how do we also get the message across to Nigerians? I think it has to do with policy. What's government policy in the oil and gas in the short term? Because I heard the Minister of Finance in our budget presentation to the National Assembly saying subsidy will go in June. And in June, she's no longer the Minister of Finance. So in June, we're going to have a new president. In June, we're going to have a new Minister of Finance. And in June, we are expected to also have a new economic policy. So what would this government do between now and May 29th in trying to deal with the issue of fuel scarcity? Right now, I think the government is still trying to tie their heads around what they have to do. But again, one of the reasons why you are elected is to make tough decisions. That's the reason why you are elected, is make tough decisions, make decisions that you know will be beneficial to your country in the short term, medium term, and long term, irrespective of how unpleasant it's going to be. But what Nigeria need right now is that this government need to make a decision on what they will do in the interim between now and May 29th in the oil and gas, and to address the fuel scarcity issue.
So the minister just passed the buck. Right. Okay, we might be able to get some insight from Mr. Emmanuel Iningba, who is National Chief of Staff, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria. Good morning, Mr. Iningba.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So Mr. Esala has told us that there is a disagreement between NNPC and the marketers. And you know about the retail outlets. Because, yes.
Okay, good morning once again.
Good. So what exactly is the position?
Issues on ground is not really about NNPC disagreeing with marketers as in respect to price change or price increase. The truth has to be told. There's this transition going on in former PPMC. PPMC is no longer PPMC. What you have now is NNPC retail, which is for filling station owners and retailers as well. And then we now have NNPC trading, which is for trucking, which is for vessel, tank farms, and others. Now, what is actually playing out, what we're really talking about is supply and distribution. And when we cut across the country, we need to look at the eastern side, western side, midwestern, north, and as the case may be. Now, NNPC, based on these changes that is coming up, it's not being made public for Nigerians to know what is actually playing out. A situation where product that is meant to be distributed, and up to this time, 1 or 2 persons in NNPC, in PPMC, former PPMC, they are still there, and transition is already ongoing, and yet they are yet to transmit powers to the next person. Because what we're seeing is movement of PPMC, both whatever product sharing, and then distribution from them to NNPC retail. So this is, once there's a gap, like I asked the other time when I went to them, I said, we can't continue to have this vacuum. Work must be in progress. Hence, without this, you start seeing scarcity playing out. When you talk about subsidy, government has already given a timeline. It cannot be this Yuletide season. You now start seeing all this happening. I think somebody needs to speak up, even from the corporation, NNPC corporation.
Understand sincerely exactly what the issues are that you have mentioned. You've made it clear there's a transition ongoing, and it will seem like the transition is getting in the way of some processes, some arrangements, some agreements here and there. So how is this transition affecting the prices of petroleum products?
For as far as I know to this day, ex-NNPC price for PMS is 148 point, maybe 117 kobo, as you mentioned, maybe. But when you talk about this transition, we need to look at the staffs in former PPMC per se that have been divided. You go to retail, you go to trading. Trading is shipping, retail is downstream, trucking. What have they really done? Are they really looking at the fact? Because right now, to them, maybe they don't understand what Nigerians are facing. What we're saying is, as I speak with you, we're on project pace, tax and target. They know about these things. That once there's a break in the line of transmission from the vessels that they load or that they import and then bring to the terminals. When I say the terminals, they have their own private depots. Of course, the refineries are not working. And so when you bring in products, there's meant to be, you move these things to tank farms, and then you now program marketers. Marketers, you program them. Now they came up with a portal called the Customer Express Portal. It is for every marketer, every retailer. Once you are licensed with them to do business, they make sure you are on board. And from time to time, you apply for allocation of products. There's no need you meeting a staff or meeting somebody to say, please give me products. No. Once you're on that platform, they look at it and they see it on their system or whatever. From there, they just allocate you. It is not for you to go and meet them. You just go to a designated this thing, tank farm or this thing outlet. Then you pick your product from there. But this is not happening right now as I speak to you. Marketers are not even allocated products. We don't even know how to manage anymore. It's confusing and it's troubling. And that's why I say PPMC per se, former PPMC, whatever that is holding this transition to take place 100%, it should be done. The U-type seasons are just by the corner. And before you know it, this whole scarcity thing may last longer than necessary.
Mr. Nimba, so where are the marketers getting their product from now? And how are they getting that product?
Market. Yes, that's a good question. The few ones we have, the few ones we see, either they get from tank farm owners or the little that has been allocated to them by PPMC. Now, even when you look at it, on was it 2 days ago, I was with the manager sales, PPMC. He said there's an embargo on it. I'm saying word for word what he told me. He said there's an embargo on it, not to allocate products to marketers. And I was like, I really don't get you. The statements you make, for instance, my brother, stations must sell. Business must move on. There must be trucking from point A to point B in respect to supply and distribution. And here you are telling me that there's an embargo. I mean, it's better imagined than said.
What is the reason that he gave for the embargo? And why were you guys not informed?
Exactly. Thank you very much. There was no reason whatsoever. Only for me to meet with him. And he said this, and I have to transmit it back to my superiors. Mind you, here that I am, so many, reports come from nationwide, the entire country, from my people. Oh, we don't have products, or we don't know what's happening, we have applied, they have not allocated. How I wish I am with my phone. I would have always showed you what is actually playing out. You will see where we have applied. You will see where there's need for them to now allocate. And then you will know that, look, at this point in time, product has gotten to you. So go and pay and load.
Okay.
People have applied. So many marketers, thousands of marketers, retailers, they have applied. No products, no allocation whatsoever. Well,
Okay.
We don't know what we're doing anymore. We're as confused as anything.
Yes. Well, Mr. Sele, I don't know what you make of this because what he's saying seems to be validated by a previous conversation in the course of the week with the Deputy National President of IPMAN, Zarama Mustafa, who made it known that there was a delay last week in the discharge of petrol from the mother vessel to depots because of some challenges between private depot owners and the NNPC, which is the main supplier. So add that to the revelations coming from Mr. Enengba now. What do you make of all of these?
Now, when you look at the tank farm owners, what you have is moving. Let me use the word that we use. This is that you have a product in a vessel. So the tank farm owners will also go ahead to get a daughter vessel. That's the word. Which invariably means the smaller vessel to get the product to their tank farm. Now, the first challenges they are facing is that the price or the cost of hiring a daughter vessel increased by over 100%. And that payment is done in dollars. And you and I know that in sourcing the dollars, they had to use the black market because their business need to go on. So because their business need to go on, and we have, I think in the last 2 weeks, because of CBN, when CBN came up with redesigning the Naira, you have the Naira and you have the dollar and Naira dancing yo-yo, and then going as far as 900. And you also have some of these tank farm owners who went ahead to buy dollar at such an exorbitant rate. And then getting that product. Now they're asking themselves, we get the product with what we have expended in the cost of hiring a daughter vessel. So what do we now expect them to do? Are they going to suffer a loss? So that is where, when you talk about retail, the product needs to be available before it gets to retail. So the main bulk of where these challenges are is that those tank farm owners who are spending so much to get the product are saying we cannot sell at this price that NNPC is asking us to sell because we have cost overrun. So when that happens, that is where I think the bulk of the challenges are right now. Because the man who is retailing.
Yes. Please land on that, Mr. Sele.
Because the man who is retailing, if that agreement has been reached, between NNPC and the tank farm owners, and they then agreed on a new pricing, then it can also not get to retail. You are going to have these delays. The delay is talking about, of course, I know that is playing out in the system right now, but you will have those delays because it's a chain. So the retailers are even at the bottom of the chain before it gets to you and I, who are the consumers. So if those are the top of the chain, I've not got it on agreement, so you are going to have a delay for the product to get to retail.
Well, Mr. Sele, in all of this conversation that you and Mr. Enengba have been having with us, I've not heard any of you mention the midstream and downstream regulatory, petroleum regulatory authority in all of this. Is that absolving the authority, or exactly what do you make of that?
No, we are not observing the authority. I don't think either of us is observing the authority. It just shows that they're not relevant in the scheme of things. Whoa. Because if they're relevant in the scheme, yes, if they're relevant in the scheme of things, they should be talking to you. They should be addressing because right now what you have is that we think, the way I try to fathom how we look at the economy is that we think in terms of Naira and Kobo. Economy is beyond thinking in terms of Naira and Kobo. It's a whole chain. It's composite. Because now, before you go to the office, she are just talking about 1 mile of queues of car. That in itself creates a psychological stress to you mentally. And then there's somebody who is supposed to be somewhere at 8 o'clock. The person can't get there until 10 o'clock. Productivity suffers. The person's head also suffers. And when your head suffers from when you have all of this chain, then your economy will be going down. So when we talk in terms of Naira and Kobo, you notice, my last training was HSC. You have to look at the whole totality to say, okay, this is how your economy moves. So these two regulatory authorities that you are talking about, I don't really know which role they are playing, because if they have any serious role to play, they should be talking to Nigeria. They are the regulators. It's not NNPC. Ordinarily, NNPC is supposed to report to the regulators. The regulators are supposed to put NNPC's feet by the fire. But they are not doing anything like that. So you notice that all our attention now goes to NNPC. So what are the regulators doing? How are the regulators holding NNPC to be accountable? How are the regulators telling NNPC to come forward to explain to Nigerians what these problems are? We are supposed to know this. I'm not just coming here to tell you. It's something that is bubbling, and those tank farm owners are not happy themselves. Nobody runs business to run at a loss.
I hear you, Mr. Sele. It's not a matter of naira and kobo, essentially, but at the end of the day, it is a matter of naira and kobo, you know, because we're told that NNPC depots sell petrol at 148 naira approximately per litre, but the private depot owners sell to Ipman at between 195 and 210 per litre.
Exactly.
Private depot owners are therefore complaining about the cost of transportation from the mother vessel to their private depots. So whether you like it or not, Mr. Esele, it still boils down to naira and kobo. Mr. Eningba, please explain to us why the thing has gone up from 148 to 210.
Actually, what is happening is when demand is higher than supply, that's what you get. Now, when you look at it, you know, it still boils down to this same thing that I'm saying. Let me also help my colleague on the other end that NNPC, PPMC per se that we used to, they have their own special depots or private depots they send products to for marketers and retailers to go there and pick and buy still at that 148.7 kobo or 0.17 kobo as the case may be. If not, the whole thing's happening right now as I speak to you. We are not seeing products. We're not being allocated products. So we can go and pick directly via trucking and take to our stations and then discharge and dispense to the public. This is what the issue is all about. The transitioning they are talking about right now, you can remember that some few months ago, NNPC bought over OVH, which is, I think, an arm of Owando, part of Owando, which has to do with their filling stations and all whatnot. You know, we looked at it and we said, oh, probably this is an added advantage to us. But, you know, with what is happening, we're so confused because we're like, okay, what is happening? NNPC, open up and tell us what is actually playing out. Let the public get to know. Let everybody get to know. If you have these products, let us know. If government wants to change price of petroleum products as well, let the public know. But I strongly do believe that in them and within them, they know too well. One, elections is just by the corner. Two, this is a Yuletide season. So they also have to be careful. What you're saying is just a technical outplay. The more you look, the less you see. So, I mean, this is what is happening.
Exactly now, Mr. Eningba, where do we find the retailers in all of this situation? What is, because the information we have is that at some level or at some point, one way or the other, government is trying to intervene. So from what you see, from what you know, I was hoping that I would get a little bit of good news from Mr. Esele, but lo and behold, he said he's not sure for how long this will last. From your own standpoint, what are the likely solutions or interventions that need to come to play so that people can have a Merry Christmas indeed?
I think NNPC, they know what to do. The answers lies between them, bringing every stakeholder on board on how to solve this issue of scarcity, or supposed scarcity. Because when you look at it, it's shown where you say, oh, and that is where the NMDPRA comes in, as in monitoring of products nationwide as well. Now you have a depot or you have a tank farm, and it's been allocated products to marketers to go and load. When you go there to load, once you load out, they have their daily this thing. You follow up where the product has been taken to, and then they send their monitoring team, the units, to go and verify. check whether this product was actually taken to their stations to sell. And that is just the answer to it. And then NNPC should not just see itself as in you can do it alone. Without the marketers, there's no way you can go into, there's no way they can achieve the desired result. But when you now see marketers as in maybe there are some kind of pests or somebody coming to disturb you when you want to take decisions or do business, and then you just believe nobody can come and tell you, just take the decisions. Let them get to know that this is a stakeholder's business. It is for the country, not for one man, not for one institution or authority. That's just the solution to it. But everybody should get involved. Everybody should be carried along.
Well, Mr. Enimba, so help us understand what the flow is supposed to be, and I'm sure that Mr. Esele would also want to speak to that. What exactly is supposed to be the role of the NMDPRA in this entire value chain? It's supposed to be Petroleum Regulatory Authority. That in my ears sounds like they need to play a role in ensuring how the entire chain flows. But you have mentioned the NNPC a lot more, and private tank farm owners and private, depot owners more times than you have mentioned the NMDPRA. So is that to say that, as Mr. Esele said, the NMDPRA is irrelevant in the chain, or they are not just living up to expectation?
I would say they are very much relevant when it comes to product supply and distribution, and also making sure that there's no there's no diversion whatsoever by marketers or from wherever, because NNPC works hand in hand with the NMDPRA. Now, product gets to NNPC, NNPC are to load marketers, marketers are to take to their stations. Now, the role of NMDPRA is to come in and say, okay, you have loaded to these stations, nationwide, and they go and visit these stations to verify if actually this product was taken to these stations. And when that is not done, they have every right to sanction. They have every right to report back to
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Mr. Enimba, just 1 second. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Is the NMDPRA empowered to regulate prices?
At some point, yes. Yes.
So what's the minimum price? Yeah. What's the minimum price they are supposed to regulate to now, knowing all of this information that you have given us?
Well, some might pretend not to know. That's why nobody has come out to speak. So giving us price, I don't understand when you say giving us price. Giving us price, is it when we get from NNPC at 148.17 and then we buy from the private tank farms at over 195, some 200, some 210? Marketers will give what they have. They cannot give what they don't have.
Essentially, what you're saying is it's not that the product are not. You've raised two issues. Number one is the fact that you're not even assigned to go and load up, as if I'm quoting you right. And the second question is the second point you've made is that the prices that you are even getting it from source is already above the 165 that is supposed to be the regulated price. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, from NNPC, there's been no price change. NNPC still at 148, which is within tolerance limit for marketers as well. But a situation where you now go to tank farms and PDOs and get it at 198 to 200 to 210, I mean, it's worrisome.
Who regulates these private depot owners and tank farms?
NMDPRA as well.
Let me ask Mr. Esele.
NMDPRA as well.
Okay.
To say they're meant to do more.
All right. Mr. Esele, now it's like the cat is out of the bag, and whatever it is that Nigerians didn't understand, you knew before now, so there is no point papering over cracks. So help us now, if there is going to be a solution, what must happen? Because right now it is clear the fault technically is not from the NNPC, it is from the people, the other depots, the private depot owners that the NNPC dispenses to, who are not releasing fuel, so to speak, to those who are supposed to load up. You said earlier that the chain is a very complex one.
Yes.
Help us understand what the responsibilities of the NNPC, IPMAN, MOMAN, the Stang farm owners that you talked about, and PETROAN. What are their specific responsibilities, and at this point, who is dropping the ball?
Now, NNPC is also a player because NNPC is also part of the downstream. But NNPC is the only importer right now of products into the country. So when you get that product into the country, then the tank farm owners will now be the one to go ahead and get the product, which is using the daughter vessel, just like I've earlier said. Now, in this chain, then you now have the retailers call me, you have MoMA, they are all marketers, just that they are answering different names. If you say IPMAN, independent petroleum marketers, they also have their own retail outlets, but they all just answer different names. But where you have issues right now is between the depot owners and NNPC, which has to do with how much are we going to release those products to retailers. And that's where you're having retailers saying that they are getting the product at 200 naira or 210 naira because the depot owners are saying that we've used dollars. Nobody give you a vessel in naira. And if they're going to give you a vessel in naira, they're going to do the conversion, and the conversion rate is done in accordance with the parallel market, because they can't source that dollar from CBN in 24 to 48 hours. So that is where the challenge is. And then you talk about the regulators, the NMIDRO, which is also another change of name, used to be Petroleum Pricing Products Regulating Authority. They have the responsibility to fix the price. They are the ones that call the stakeholders together and look at, okay, now you depot owners, this is your complaint. NNPC, this is your complaint. Retail outlet, this is your complaint. Okay, they will all now sit down, negotiate, and agree on a common price. Earlier on, I said, I don't know when this strike is going to be over, but I don't know when this scarcity is going to be over. But I will tell you that before Christmas, of course, NNPC will find a way around it. Government will find a way around all of this. But the underlying fact is that get ready for price increase. So this is where it's dovetailing to. And then earlier on, I made reference to Naira and Kobo. Why I said that, yes, Naira and Kobo is important, but a serious society is not built on the tangible. It is built on the intangible. Today we are seeing scarcity, but the intangible is what is playing out between NNPC and the depot owners, which we are not seeing. So all attention should be on the intangible. Once you sort out the intangible, your productivity, your mental health, everything will take care of itself. That's what I meant by not putting attention on Naira and Kobo.
Okay.
But we must all be prepared that this is also another push towards a fuel price hike.
Okay. Mr. Sele, you have given us a heads up. We should get ready for a price increase. Fine. So what kind of price increase should we gear ourselves up to?
Now, what I expect of the government, it has to be a government policy. Now, when I use the word government policy, is what is this administration ready to do between now and June? That's one. Then number two, don't also forget that this administration also have election for next year. The party in power also want to retain power next year. So they have to walk the fine line. If what I've always advocated, even on this program, is that, yes, we can stagger what we want. This is what government wants to achieve. You stagger it. Now, why I said we are going to continue, we may continually have this problem throughout next year too. We're having what I call ghost scarcity. Ghost scarcity, by ghost scarcity, I mean, you wake up in the morning, you are going to work, there are no fuel queues, and then suddenly you are going back home and you see queues everywhere. Then 2 days later, there are no fuel queues. So we may be having all of that until we have a policy, because what I'm expecting the 4 presidential aspirants to do now, who wants to be president of Nigeria, I want to hear a direct statement. Are you taking off subsidy or not? And then what that means is that Nigerians will vote on that. If a president says, I'm going to take off subsidy, a party says, I'm taking off subsidy, and the party wins. So what now happens is that the party has what I call political capital. to say this is the platform I was elected for. Therefore, this is what I'm going to do. And the money that may accrue from subsidy, this is what I'm going to do.
So, Mr. Esele, just a second to just punctuate you. So, if a presidential candidate says he's going to remove fuel scarcity, all of them have said the same thing, by the way. I'm just afraid what Labour will do eventually.
Now, let me tell you something. Okay, now this administration, 7 years in this administration, how many fuel price increases have you had, and what has Labour done? So it's a matter of also engaging Labour. I heard what the Chief of Staff said earlier. He said, stakeholders, you engage. Everybody looked at the way the country is right now. Too much debt. We have a lot of debt right now we need to deal with. How much are we spending on the subsidy? First of all, let's define what are we spending. How much are we spending on subsidy annually? I'm not talking about somebody wakes up and he tells you that we are spending 2 trillion or we are spending 3 trillion. Let there be figures, verifiable figures, transparent figures. How many liters of petrol are we consuming a day? Because NNPC initially said they brought in 98 million. Customs said no, that is 68 million. You already have a differential of 30 million between two government agencies saying no. They are not even in agreement. So we need to identify that. Once you identify that, let me tell you, Nigerians are one of the easiest people to lead in the world. All Nigerians need is not, if you want them to tighten their belt, you too tighten your own. Nigerians will take you telling them to tighten their belt while yours is loose. Those are the fundamental why Nigerians always complain.
Mr. Sele, we need to hasten things up a bit. You spoke about fuel subsidy and governments telling us about the campaign things being they're going to remove fuel subsidy. If you think back, the last 2 times that fuel prices were increased, we were told that there was partial removal of subsidy, which expression none of us seems to understand to this day.
Now, that still comes down to policy. You see, if a government has a policy, if I am telling you I'm taking away subsidy, you know you are taking away subsidy. There's no subsidy in petroleum products in Ghana. There's no subsidy. So you just know you are taking away subsidy, and then you prepare the people for it, and then you also tell the people what you want to do with the money. So when you don't have policy, when you have policy inconsistency, what you have is that you flip-flop. That is what we've been having, even from administration of President Jonathan about subsidy or no subsidy. There are policy inconsistency that is making it difficult.
Even concerning that you just mentioned now, if you can just speak to this very quickly in 10 seconds, Mr. Esele, before I go back to Mr. Enimba. Do you see a situation where importation of crude is also decentralized from just NNPC? Will that help?
Yes. Yes, it will help, and it's going to happen. Worst case scenario, it will happen in 2024.
Okay. Well, Mr. Enimba, we are wrapping up now. What must happen now if people are going to have fuel supply in their various tanks?
Clarify it very well for us to understand. When you talk about subsidy, did they NNPC stops, or do you see other partners or stakeholders, imports, products, know that NNPC has stopped subsidy? As I speak with you, that is why we have subsidy put in the budget and everything, and you see money, billions, trillions being talked about in respect to subsidy. Now, as it stands now, there's no whatever that has to do with product not being around. Every parameter whatsoever has been taken care of by the government and also NNPC. Now, our own part is, like I earlier said, we need to work together as a team. Get the stakeholders involved. If the products are by the shores of Nigeria, and then maybe you need to bring them in to the tank farms. NNPC have their own special tank farms or PDOs where they push products to for marketers and retailers to buy at government approved price, which is this 148. And that is why I say, when you go to that portal, you see that you're being allocated or not. But lately, we don't see such. All in the name of that, they are transiting. For how long? Like I earlier said, there must not be a gap when it comes to this distribution chain. Once there's a gap, the circle becomes a vicious circle. So
Well,
we don't need all
Enimba,
this now.
thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Enimba. We've run completely out of time. Mr. Emmanuel Enimba, National Chief of Staff, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, who joined us from our studio in Abuja. And we also had Mr. Peter Isele, former President, Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, who has given us a heads up to prepare our minds for fuel increase. Another increase is coming. Merry Christmas, everybody. See you with our next topic in just a moment.